and it is an emerging form of coaching. I'll tell you something about where it's come from, and we'll also have a go at it. But let's just start with reality. Your teachers, your leaders, your managers, you are all somewhere associated in the education world. And as Sonia said, education is messy. Schools are messy. We can't pretend that we can create sterile, clinical, easily measurable, easily controllable environments in schools. It's a nonsense to assume that. And we actually can't do that for teachers any more than we can for pupils. We can't create lovely robots of teachers that will move through their career, meeting milestones and constantly ticking off boxes. We know that we're human. To be human is to be really quite messy. And part of that mess is the fact that it's not easy. The job we do is not easy. And the reason it's not easy is because we're constantly faced with dilemmas. One of the things that most characterizes our work as educators are the dilemmas that we face. And that's why we've been trying to work in this area. Let me just introduce Yasmin. This is Yasmin. She is in her first year as a new Senko in the school. Perhaps some of you have been Senkos, are Senkos. And she was thinking about the first 4 months in her post. And on a very simple level, she was thinking about, well, which weeks went well, which weeks didn't go so well? Am I on an upward trajectory or a downward trajectory in terms of how happy I am in post, how confident I am in post, how do I feel about myself in post? And she drew herself a little chart. And as you can see, overall, the news is good. After 4 months, she's feeling a bit better about herself in that post than she was at the beginning. You do worry a bit about the beginning. Who knows whether she's in a brand new school in that role or in the same school? Who knows? I'm sorry, you may not be able to see the writing because it's white, so I will read those to you. What dilemmas has she faced in those first 4 months? Here are 3 examples. The first one, say she's accounting for the beginning. Started at a low point. I was nervous and I messed up a parent contact meeting. This led to someone soliciting negative comments from other parents. It's hard when you face that. First few weeks left me exhausted. Probably the next few weeks did as well, actually, but the first few weeks left me exhausted. I was trying to manage so many expectations. And I was working with a social worker to support a looked after child. I felt that the more I learned, the more complex the challenges became. Now, you could look at that and think, well, why would anybody do that job? And you could look at that and say, well, that's the kind of bad press that we shouldn't be sharing about teaching, you know? But let's be true, this is real. These are the sorts of dilemmas that Yasmin will have faced, and they will have given her those moments of doubt and those moments where she went home absolutely exhausted and really couldn't be bothered the next day to get up and go back to work, but had to. The day that she went home and snapped at her own children because she just had enough. You know, all those things that do happen to us as teachers, they are real, and we've all experienced something similar. And unfortunately, they don't go away after the first 4 months. Similar dilemmas will be faced. So why are we interested in dilemmas? So the origin of this work on dilemma-based coaching, and you'll see I'll talk a bit more at the beginning of this and then you'll do more talking towards the end of this session, was an Erasmus project. Now, one of my, when I get into a real kind of tiz about stuff, one of the things I get into a tiz about is that amongst many other deprivations, we are now out of Erasmus. And it means that whereas in the past, as academics in universities and partner organisations, we've been able to involve ourselves in rich international learning and development opportunities, we're now not. So we're being written into a bid for the future, but as external partners, and we have to claim that we have expertise that nobody else in the world has. I can't claim that, it's ridiculous. But this is a project called Promise that we led at Leeds Beckett University and had partners in 7 international contexts. It led to another project that we're just finishing this year called Repeat. But Promise stood for Promoting Inclusion in Society Through Education. It's a hugely grand ambition, and all we did was kind of create a little bit of a stepping stone in that pathway of promoting inclusion in society through education. At the heart of it was the fact that if we think about inclusion in society, and then we think about how that is represented and creates opportunities and creates dilemmas in schools, teachers have to have opportunities for professional development, which allows them to acknowledge the dilemmas that an inclusive society does bring, but also address them positively, and to learn through those dilemmas rather than to think, I can't deal with that, I'm going to pass it to somebody else. So we based our idea on the fact that when we are working in education, we find ourselves in dilemmas.